Hi everyone. Hi. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's try again. Okay, hi everyone on Facebook. I think we're okay here. Okay. Hi on the other side too. Little technical difficulty, but we're all good. So hi, I'm Anna Tai, the author of Eat to Focus. I'm also the owner, or I guess I don't know what you call that person, but I'm the person who kind of like managed the group at the Facebook group. I think it's called Natural Alternative ADHD Treatment. I haven't changed the name yet. So, but anyway, we're here again, and we're gonna be answering question again. I'll see how many questions I can answer today. I didn't pick up many questions, but we'll see. Okay, so let's see. And by the way, I think some of you is Sunday in your place or where you're from. So happy Easter. We're still Saturday today, so it's not quite Easter for us yet. Okay, let's see. Okay, looks like I have like four posts that I kind of take a snapshot. Here. So some of these things that I feel like I'm repeating myself repeating myself every week because some of the things that seems like it's the same thing people ask over and over again, but it's okay because everyone's situation is different. So like if you post your question inside the Facebook group or in Instagram, I'll try to answer it here. But during the week, I might go on either place to try to answer some questions. So but anyway, so this is a question from inside the group. So this person says, both my boys were recently diagnosed with ADHD and they struggle with emotional regulation the most. And my 10-year-old is inattentive and has huge swings in emotions, highs of anger, and lows of sadness. My 5-year-old is hyperactive and he gets super angry and defiant at the flip of a switch. I've been researching vitamins and supplements, and I'm trying to decide between three and something that she researched on. Okay, so like with the ADHD, what I notice is because I've been doing this for over 10 years now, like the blog that some of you have visited or found, the natural alternative ADHD treatment.com, the blog. I started this whole thing like 10 years ago or actually more than 10 years ago now. So initially when I started looking into this whole ADHD, it's really simple. Like 10 years ago, all we talk about is like inattention, hyperactivity, lack of focus, and impulsivity. But in last few years, what I've noticing is more and more along with the ADHD's diagnosis, the inactivity, lack of focus, and impulsivity, all of that, there seems to be more like other psychological diagnosis, like anxiety, depression, and then mood swings, and all of those. And me, my background is a registered dietitian. I'm also a board certified specialist in pediatric nutrition. And the way that I treat all this and all my research is based on like the body function. The way that I kind of treat is more like functional medicine, looking under beneath the body, looking at almost at the cellular level at what's missing, what's defective, and then try to correct or go around the defective route. So when I look at kids who have mood swings, there's so many things that could cause the mood swing, but I think a lot of the things you read out there on social media, they try to just blame it on, oh, it's the ADHD that causes all this. But in my way of thinking is that these things all happens probably have the same cause, same underlying cause. And like in my book and in my blog, I talk about like five and maybe six different potential causes of ADHD. And I'm not saying that those are the only causes of ADHD. There are many, many, many more. And I didn't even talk about the emotional side or the emotional cause and childhood trauma that causes of the ADHD. I'm only focusing on the nutrition part, that the cause that could be helped with nutrition or better nutrition. So whenever we look at a child who have mood swings and anger outbursts and sadness, I the way my brain focus is the child well fed, and is the child sleeping enough, is the child having any kind of like traumatic experience around in their environment. um, and usually with mood swings, when you talk about mood swing, that means that it goes up and down, like in a short period of time. That usually means that something changed in the body, right? Like unlike something that is more chronic, like recently, I saw this child in my office because the reason why they came to see me is because the child just stopped eating, like completely, like stopped eating for a month and a half. And then, so that's the reason why the child came to me. And then when the child came in to see me, I was like, oh my God, something is wrong. Like, this is even before I start asking questions, just looking at the child, I was like, something is wrong with this kid. Because a teenager, and she just looked flat, like no expression on the face, no emotions. That's like not a typical teenager. Just looking at her, I know something is wrong, but I'm not a psychologist at work, so I just focus on the eating. So I told her dad and the parents like what exactly to do to get her to put some extra nutrition back in her body so she can function and stop losing weight. And I referred them to the psychologist. So there's different like psychological aspects state. But then when we're looking at like in this question, she's saying that the kids having mood swings up and down. There are many different things could be changed in the brain chemicals from the environment, like maybe something that the child eat that day that is causing some of that. So I talk a lot about food sensitivity and food intolerances in ADHD. Again, those are very different from food allergies because true food allergies trigger an actual immune response, which will show up in blood tests. But food sensitivity, that's the word I use. Food sensitivity and food intolerances, which is more like a chemical or mechanical irritation, those things does not trigger any kind of immune response. So those do not show up in any blood test, skin test, or any of the tests that your doctors ordered. That's why it's so frustrating. And so in continue answering that questions about the mood swings and anger outbursts. Anytime you have that mood change up and down, you look at the energy level. Is it because the child hasn't eaten for a long time? Because in order for the brain to control that inhibition and the outbursts and the impulsivity, the brain chemicals have to be there. It is not like the brain function kind of like a muscle, but the way this muscle works is it needs the help of brain chemicals. And there are brain chemicals that stimulate the brain to make us have energy and have fun. And that's usually the dopamine. And then there's also this other chemicals that are more calming, like the GABA, and then what's the other one? And serotonin, and the other one that makes you sleep, melatonin. So there are different hormones or brain chemicals. They're the same thing that that changes our mood. So when we're looking at someone who's having mood swings, we need to look at, like I said, look at the food. When was the last time your child ate? Maybe your child hasn't eaten for a while, or maybe it's something that is in the food that is triggering or irritating something or causing a change in the chemicals or the hormone signaling. Or it could be something happening in a child, like, especially, like even for myself, if I wake up in the morning, like say I didn't get enough sleep, I wake up with a pretty low mood already. And then every little thing just drive me off the wall. So those are things to monitor. And that's why like when we look at with the whole ADHD symptoms, like that's kind of what I try to help people understand in my blog and every word that I talk about this is that instead of focusing on just the symptoms and trying to find that magic pill to get rid of that symptoms, we need to look further back behind that symptoms and ask ourselves, where did that symptoms comes from? Because the symptom itself is not the problem. The hyperactivity, the lack of focus, impulsivity, those are not the problem. The problem is underneath it, because those are just signs that is telling us, hey, pay attention, something is not right in there. So that's kind of how the functional nutrition therapy works, is we look beyond the symptoms and go dig deeper and ask other questions. Because like I said, every time all the things that I read about ADHD is we're so focused on the lack of focus, the impulsivities, and the hyperactivities. But then the question is, we should also be asking other questions too, like other symptoms, like is your child having stomach pain? How's the child sleeping? And how about the skin? Is there any skin rashes? Like that's why, like a lot of times at work, like parents always ask, oh, do I need to bring the child to come see you? I was like, yes, I need to see your child because I need to see your child's behavior. I need to look at your kid's skin and all those. Like there are all these other things that will tell me what might be causing some of the symptoms by looking at your child, asking more detailed questions like what's the diet like? How's the sleep schedule? How's the school? Do they eat at school? Or how's school for them? Like, is it stressful? Are there people bullying them? All of these things, I look at all of those to try to come up with a plan. So, like, again, answering this question is you have to look at all these different things. But um, so my recommendation for this person whose kids having all this mood swing, first of all, I'll say try to look at the diet and try clean out some of the junk in the diet because again, going back to the food allergy, food sensitivity, again, is that there's not um, a true food reaction, and sometimes it might not even be the food itself, could be the chemicals that is added to the food. And I've seen that so often where kids go to the doctor did all the tests, and all the tests are all negative. Then the doctor just told the parents, you know what, just learn to deal with it. Nothing's wrong with your child. Maybe it's your imagination. I can't help you anymore. But maybe go talk to Anna. Anna can figure it out for you. And so they did come to me and we did figure it out that the child could be sensitive to other ingredients that is not supposed to be in the food, like the stuff that manufacturer add to it. So that's something that can be figured out. And again, the signs and symptoms are just telling us what is possibly wrong, and it gives us clues to go back and beyond the symptoms inside the body function and figure out what's causing the symptoms. Then we can get rid of the symptoms. Okay, I speak too much, but it's okay. Um, Maybe I'll talk a little bit about omega-3 too, but I think I talked about it last week. So sorry, I don't remember everything I talked about. Okay, this next question, someone asked about using Berlia, Nordic Naturals, omega-3s, magnesium, and diet. Okay, well, this is kind of answering the post, but also putting out the rules. So I'm actually going to change the rules inside the Facebook group because I noticed there are people actually trying to sell Brillia. Like in this case, this person posted that, oh yeah, we use this, and that, and Brillia. And if you want to get Brillia, here's the link to get it. And we got like a $20, um, they get like a $20 for referral. Okay, the reason why I'm going to ban actually Brillia is one of them. There are a few things, um, Brillia, CBD, and NRF2. So those are three things that I'm going to be banning from the Facebook group. And the reason why is because there are no studies or anything that shows that these things work. And so I'm banning it, especially when people are actually making money off other people with the garbage. So I'm going to ban all those posts from now on, and all the people all the people going to be admitted in the group from now on will have to agree to that they're not going to promote or spam anyone with those things. And yeah, so if you want to promote your CBD or your Berlia, you can go to another group. But in this group, I stick to something that actually helps, and that's what I'm sticking because my name is on this, so I'm not gonna let you ruin this, okay? Skip that. Okay. Um, but I do want to say omega-3 fatty acids and magnesium and diet will work, and I'll answer that later. Okay, this is an interesting question. It might or might not apply to many people, but this one talks about ticks. Um, so the question is, does anyone have any theory why prescription stimulant seem to make ticks worse? Yet caffeine significantly improves my second graders' facial tics. Why does this happen? And if you have and you are successfully treating tics in your child, I want to hear about it. Our second grader had a major spike in tick severity, about 5 ticks per minute. Oh my God, that's a lot. It's like that's like a workout in itself. Okay. And then of course all these other people, there's other people trying to help, and then of course again someone try to promote this garbage here. So this is your warning. Okay, ticks. Um, this is not my area of expertise, but I just like to put my 2 cents in, just like everyone else. But okay, so with ADHD medication, so I think a lot of times, like when people think of medication, um, and even like herbal supplements, the way that think of it is kind of like a puzzle piece. Like, okay, I have this puzzle shape and it's missing something, so I have this pill and just slap it on, boom, and it works, right? But it doesn't happen quite like that. So she's comparing prescription medication, prescription stimulant, and a natural stimulant like caffeine. So even though they're both stimulant, they're the mechanism that they work on the brain is totally different. She didn't really mention about which stimulant, but I'll just use the generic version of it. So most of the prescription stimulant, they they the way that they work is so okay. Let me go a little bit into the neurology part of it, the brain chemical science. So just be patient with me, okay? So in the brain and also in the spine, there are many neurons. The neurons are the brain cells, and they're not the same shape like the other tissue cells in our body. They're long cells. But anyway, not too much details, just enough so you understand what's going on. So between cells, okay, brain cells are kind of like pencils, right? Like just imagine a pen like the top and then the writing part, the top and writing part. So these are how all the brain cells are connected. In fact, they're not actually physically connected, like they don't touch. So all the cells like this, wait, let me go here. So like one after another, so all the cells, that's how brain cells work. That's how they connect. But they're not actually touching. So in between brain cells, there's this tiny little gap, like tiny little gap, but they're not touching. And in order for brain chemicals to go from this cells to this cell, that chemicals comes out into this end and then ended up in this end. So there's this gap called a synaptic gap, a synapses. Oh my God, I can't speak today, but it's okay. I don't care. So it's called synapses. it, I cannot say the word today, but you get the idea. There's a gap. So in order for the cells, the brain cells, I mean the brain chemicals to get to this side to do its job to convert that message, there's this gap that the chemicals have to go through. So when this side push out all that brain chemicals into the gap here, this side have to pick it up, right? But the speed of how fast this side pick it up, it depends on how many brains, how many of these brain chemicals are being released. So the amount of higher amount of the brain chemicals, then more will end up in this side. So what they found is that people with ADHD in the brain, the chemicals is not a lot. So there's not much chemicals. So that's actually one of the theory how medication works is that the brain chemicals between this synapses is kind of low. So what the medication does is that because once the body or the cells make the chemicals here and then it absorbs some on this side, then some of the extra is being like um, taken back up and recycled again. So there's this recycling process. But what the ADHD medication does is it kind of so what the ADHD medication does is it stops that recycling system. So that means that it makes the brain chemical stays in the gap longer. So the longer it stays in the gap, hopefully that it'll keep circulating in the gap and more will travel over to the other side. So that's how ADHD medication works. Basically stop the recycling process and keep the chemicals in the synaptic gap longer. And that's how ADHD stimulant works. On the other hand, the ADHD, no, the ADHD, no, the caffeine, which is also a stimulant, but is a natural stimulant. The caffeine, the way the caffeine works is totally different. It actually wakes up your brain center. So, like, one of the cost, one of the difference in the ADHD brain. Oh, thank you for the hearts. I love hearts. Um, one of the difference with the ADHD brain is that not only the chemical is lower in the synaptic gap, but the prefrontal cortex, which you probably heard a lot of, the prefrontal cortex of the brain is the part that controls attention and also what's the other thing? Impulsivity. So this is the part that is controlling inhibition and all those things. So again, from research and brain scans, we know that people with ADHD have like a little bit smaller prefrontal cortex and a little bit like slightly different. So what the caffeine does is, you know how a lot of people, most people drink caffeine, they're like, oh, if I drink coffee late in the afternoon, I can't go sleep at night. Then there's this other group of people, they're like, oh yeah, I can chuck down like 2 cups of coffee before bed and I can still go to sleep. So that tells us that everyone's brain is different. And the way that caffeine works is it actually works the same for people with ADHD, except that the brain part is, or the brain is reacting differently. So what caffeine does is actually caffeine have different mechanism, but one of the mechanism is that it helps um, it attached to the adenosine receptor, and that's the receptor that actually makes you tired. Like the adenosine, I'm sorry, I'm putting out so much like chemicals, words and stuff like that. But what it does is the the caffeine, the caffeine itself attached to this thing called a adenosine receptor, taking up that space so that adenosine cannot attach to it to make you sleepy. Because if normally adenosine is attached to the adenosine receptor, it makes you sleepy. But now caffeine took that spot, so that adenosine is circulating more. It keeps you awake. But in the ADHD brain, it doesn't make you more hyper. It actually awakens your prefrontal cortex. And that's what it does. It's giving the prefrontal cortex more energy. That's why you have more focus when you drink caffeine. So that's how caffeine works with ADHD. And that's the difference between the prescription stimulant, like the Adderall, Ritalin, Concerta, all of those, and and the clean difference. Totally two totally different mechanisms. So back to this person's question about the tics, why it's the stimulant causing more facial tics. So this is just my attempt to answer this question. It might not even be true, but it's just my theory. So if you like to entertain with me, then stay listening. So the tic with the tic is like kind of uncontrolled muscle movement. So what it is so going back to how ADHD medication works. So ADHD medication actually um, makes the brain chemicals to circulate more, so keeping that level up. So the problem is that is we need to realize that these um, brain chemicals, every one of these brain chemicals, like the dopamine, the ones that we talk about a lot with ADHD, serotonin, melatonin, and then what's the other one? The epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of those brain chemicals, all of them, every single one of them have many different functions. And between and with the interaction between every single one of them, there's even more reaction and they're connected. So whenever we affect one chemical, the other chemicals could be affected. So when we're looking at the functions of all these medication or all these brain chemicals, is that the brain chemicals, like the dopamine, we know helps with focus and attention is more reward, but it also affects other basic body function like your sleep, your mood, your hunger, and all these things. So anytime those medication, that's why like with prescription drugs, like not just even about ADHD medication now, overall, every medication, prescription medication, there's always a lot of side effects. Is because when you affect one part in the system, the other system is like the downstream system is going to be affected. And the problem is like how much the downstream is going to be affected. So that's the difference. So whenever, so like I said, in this case, it might be because, well, I don't really exactly know how takes forms, but based on the fact that it's like muscle twitching, probably some of the nerve in the body is being misfired for whatever reason. And so in this case, it could be like the chemicals is maybe a little bit because prescription ADHD stimulant is actually very powerful because all prescription drugs are made to be very powerful to give you that effect almost immediately. So that could be something like maybe some of the brain chemicals misfire with that high level. So whenever we're talking about misfiring, my first thought is maybe the brain is missing something on its own. It might not be brain itself too, right? Because like I said, how I explained that the difference between the ADHD medication and the caffeine is that caffeine doesn't actually stimulate the brain chemicals. It just wakes up the part of the brain to help you focus. So going back to here and going back again to brain science or brain biology is that our brain cells, like I'll use this to show. So our brain cells, the nerve is actually inside a layer of fats. And that's the reason why I always, like every day, I have to remind parents, your kids need fats in their diet because they need the fats for brain growth and development. And the other thing also is that the brain needs the fat to cover the nerve inside the nerve because if the nerve is not covered properly by that fatty layer outside, it's going to get misfired. It's like electrical wire. That's how I used to explain all the time. Let me show you my, like, okay, I'll just use this, even though it's my earphone. Okay, electrical wires, they all have like metals inside. And then they have this plastic layer outside. And the purpose of this plastic layer outside is so that the electricity doesn't fly out there. So in this case, in answering this person's question, I think maybe one of the things that I would recommend is to try increase the fats in the child's diet to see if that works. especially with omega-3 fatty acids, because your brain actually about 8 to 10% of the brain is omega-3 fatty acids. So that will be something that I'll look into as far as the take goes. And then if the prescription drugs is causing that, maybe you can look into a combination of doing a lower dose prescription and then a little bit caffeine to kind of support it so you get the benefit of both. And then while working on the diet. So the diet that I talk about in my book and in my blog is have served two purposes. First purpose is to support brain growth and development because young children, the brain is growing so fast. We're trying to take advantage of this window of opportunity to load it up with nutrition and good stuff that the brain can catch up with growing and develop properly and normally. And and then the second fold, or the second purpose of the ADHD protocol elimination diet is the elimination part. And this elimination part is the part where we try to limit and restrict the potential food and ingredients, artificial ingredients in the food that could potentially trigger some of the ADHD symptoms, causing like brain chemical imbalance and all of those. So that's the whole purpose of the diet. Is it's not a magical diet. It's just that it's based on all this science and research behind it. So yeah, that's the two costs. And I think that's how I would answer that question. So, and I'll probably when I have, if I have time, I'll go in and actually answer that. Oh, here, this one. So this one is, I guess, is an adult person asking this. So she said that she's been diagnosed with ADHD as a kid and hitting a wall here, always have good life support around me and management system. So she sounds like she grew up in a very supportive environment. And then, so here's her dilemma is that she's been hearing a lot about how people who are taking ADHD medication have really good results. Um, and then she's talking about how she doesn't take any medication, try to avoid medication as much as possible. So her I have huge problem with big pharma, and I believe that food is true medicine. Totally agree, but again, I I don't go black or white. Like my position is, even though I talk about natural alternative ADHD treatment and I advocate alternative treatment for that, I'm not against medication. To me, I just like to have a lot of options. Having knowing that medication is always available to me, that gives me peace of mind that if all else fail, there's always something that will work, but I will have to pay for it with the side effects that comes along with it. And I do agree that I don't like all of these drug companies, even though I work with a lot of them at work. And they bring food to us. They try to buy buy us through our tummies, but there is always room for drugs in our life, and there's something that only medication can fix, like so we need to remember that life is not black and white. Sometimes the medication can actually save your life, but other times there's always alternative options that you can try first before going to medications. So yeah, that's how I answer her. So I think that her dilemma is that she hears all this benefit with medication and she wants to try, but then it feels like, I think her thing is, it kind of feels like it's against her personal belief that she cannot trust this big pharmaceutical company, and it'll be kind of make her kind of like what's the word, like going against on what she believed. So my my thing is that go ahead and try it. You know, the only way to find out if it works for you is to try it. And the thing is, with the ADHD medication, it gets out of your system like a couple hours after you stop taking it. So just try for a day and see how you feel, or try a couple of days, see if it really helps you. And the thing is, again, It's not black or white, this or that. There's always gray area. Like I like to play in the gray area because you never know. It the best things for you it might be in the gray area where you take a low dose medication and then supplement with like this natural alternative other options because natural alternative ADHD treatment there are tons of them. There's the diet part, there's the supplements part, there are like exercise part, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, neurofeedback. There's so many things out there that could help with the ADHD symptom. Medication is only one of it, so don't overthink it. If you want to try medication, go ahead and try it. So, but don't beat yourself up that you're being a bad person. Because and also medication doesn't have to be taken every day either. A lot of my patients only take medication on the days that they need it. Like a lot of my little kids patient, they only take the medication during school day and then during spring break or on the weekends they stop taking that medication and that's totally fine. So just allow yourself to try different things because the whole purpose of me putting this whole website or the blog and all of this about natural alternative ADHD treatment is to give you option. So your medication is also one option out of all these other options. So don't feel bad if you want to try it. It's not the end of the world. And the drugs company might be making a little bit money off you, but you know what? It's all up to you. If you try the medication, makes you feel wonderful, then keep taking it. But if it's really makes you feel uncomfortable, just stop it. And like I said, the medication get out of your system by the end of the day. So give it a try. You can go ask your doctor for a sample. I'm pretty sure they have samples sitting around in the office. Try it out and then see how it works for you. So, um, yeah, I'm all about trying. That's part of the fun of life is try different things because if you don't try, you'll never know what causes. And especially in your case, if you never try, that idea is always gonna be floating in your head every single day, bothering you. So just let yourself try it out. You like it, then keep taking it. If not, then just stop and at least you know the results. Like, oh yeah, it's not for me. So yeah. Anyway, um, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for everyone who showed up today. So I saw a lot of questions in the Facebook group talking about or asking about how to start the supplements and all of those. So if you want to have like a step by step and know exactly what supplement to start, how much, how to dose all those, you can actually go get my book at the my book Eat to Focus, and I'll put the link in the comments later. When inside the book, you'll find all the supplements that I recommend to start with, and the dose, how much to give, and how to read the labels and all of those things. So you'll find that in there. And then another thing is there's something exciting coming up, and I'm going to announce it probably in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Continue to follow me on Instagram, which is Eat to Focus, and I'm also on Facebook. Um, the Facebook group is still called, or the page is still called Natural Alternative ADHD Treatment. So you can find me. It's a long name, so just type it all out. And we're growing really, really like quickly, and there's a lot of question, a lot of good support in there. So if you want to kind of be part of the community, go over to the Facebook group and we'll hang out there and have fun. Okay, all right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for everyone who show up or for those of you who's watching it later. Thank you so much. Have a very happy Saturday, or if it's Sunday for you, happy Easter, and I'll talk to you next week. Okay, bye.